Welcome to Talk Design Podcast, the space where creativity meets conversation. I'm Adrian Ramsey, your host, and as someone deeply entrenched in the world of design, I'm thrilled to introduce you to the minds that inspire me in the hope that they will spark something special within you too. From a design past crafting women's swimwear to pushing the boundaries of performance sportswear, from mountaineering to international yachting, to implementing systematic innovation solutions that transcend boundaries in aerospace industry. My heart remains rooted in architecture, and exploring the emotional tapestry woven by built spaces is my fascination. My journey in design has been what can only be described as a life of design. I want to thank you for lending me your ears. I'm eager to embark on this next episode together. My guest on Talk Design today is Bill Styczynski. Now, Bill is the principal of Studio 21 Architects in Chicago, and we've had the pleasure of traveling together on conferences and stuff like that, and regular meetings as well with either you or Emma from your team, which has been fantastic. And we've wanted to do this for a while, have Bill on the show, and he was sitting in a hospital bed because he just had a heart operation. And Bill's a fast-moving train. He's a guy that doesn't stand around. In fact, I made a reference to another friend of ours is that I was going to do a Bill when I was at a conference, and that was set my own agenda, carry light baggage, and not necessarily carry many people with me. Just keep moving, doing my thing. And that's my my thing now. I go, you know what? I know Bill would be off and he wouldn't miss any opportunity wherever he is to really take something in. So he's stuck in a hospital bed. He's back home now, but he was stuck in a hospital bed and he's bored, just bored. And I said to him, Bill, let's get on the podcast and give you something to do on recovery. So Bill, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks. It's good to be on with you, and it's good to be alive and here. 2 days ago, I was in the hospital 2 days ago, so
Yeah.
I just got released, and you know, I saw a picture of an image that my wife had when I was still in recovery,
Yeah.
just recovery, and I was still out, and there's probably 20, 30 cords coming into me and tubes going into my belly, tube down my throat. And it's like when I finally came through, it's like I'm alive.
Yeah.
I'm Frankenstein, but I'm alive. But yeah, that was something that I had uh, I knew I was going to have, so it wasn't like a surprise thing. I've
Yeah.
known for a couple of years that it may have to happen, and I planned on it and canceled my racing season and tried to finish my house that I was currently building, and then I had the surgery scheduled for all that after that. So timing was right, and they did a valve replacement and there was one um, bypass that they did, and I'm good to go. I mean, the chest was all opened up and
Power out.
everything that they did with that. But I had an easier potential procedure where they bring the valve through an artery, but that would only last maybe 15 years. So,
Oh, really?
the
Yeah.
decision was to do the open heart. They could take care of everything, better procedure overall. And in, in 15 years, when I need another valve replacement, they can just bring it up through the artery then. So I'm good. I'm
Ah.
good. I'm good to 100.
Yeah,
So
good. Yeah, yeah, you've locked it in. Well, it's an interesting thing that as well, isn't it? Like, we were talking about analogies just before, but you think about that, you could have you were replacing, the fuel pump, essentially, the injectors. And if this was a car, you were replacing the injectors, but you stripped open the whole thing, cleaned up everything at the same time, and went, great, we're sweet, and left a path so that it could be used later as well. Um,
right, right.
it's yeah, both Bill
So
and Bill's an accomplished racer. I'm a hack. but we both love cars and we both love racetracks. And
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Well, and my surgeon uh, would take his Porsche to Road America and do lap days,
yeah,
and we got talking about stuff, and it's like, no, this is my guy, you know.
yeah, exactly.
I don't need to find another surgeon. This is he and I have similar,
Yeah,
similar qualities, so let's go with him, right? So
I
yeah,
like that. I like that. That's about getting the right team around you, isn't it? You know,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
people with that same synergistic feeling, and they're up for the adventure and they're up for the challenges. I like, yeah. As a heart surgeon, you'd want somebody who has run a few laps and actually got a game plan and knows how to, again, go back to these analogies. We were talking about the difference between, say, doing qualifying, and qualifying, you've got the track pretty much to yourself, and you can set your line, you've done all that, you've had practice. And then race day comes, and you hope that you're one point you'll get back on that line that you set in qualifying. But
right.
from then on in, it's all an open book, anything and
Yeah,
everything
as I said,
happens.
you play the cards that are dealt you because you can do all your planning or even talk with another driver and hey, you and I were gonna, do this, and then all hell breaks loose and you just, you're on your own then,
Yeah.
and you just have to change the game plan and move on. So
Well, I think
yeah,
that's the difference between that's racing. That's actual racing, not racing a clock. That's racing humans, the
right.
unpredictability. And when you look at the heart valve operation, doing open heart, the same. Whatever they find. It's their ability to deal with what they find along the way. And that's not
Yeah,
much different from dealing with clients and designing houses either. You discover more and more the longer you're with them, and more, depending on the jurisdictions you're working in as well, the nuances of all those pieces. And again, you're moving the thing as it goes. So,
yeah. But
but
and relying on a team, relying on a great team, right?
yeah,
And
yes,
that's
somebody's got to put the fuel and the wheels on it.
right, right. And with our firm, we've got that team that all works together and we'll never do heart surgery, but in the architectural work that we do, there's, skill levels for different people and they're putting together all of that knowledge and
Mm.
experience and skill into a design. So, it's in many ways I see kind of analogy of this heart surgery that I went through and
Yeah.
some of our design process, right? So yeah,
Absolutely. And I see the same I see the same that happens in the architectural journey. There's a similar thing that it has repetitive pieces. Yeah, one of the things I always think is with architecture, you can have somebody who's fresh out of architecture school and they could do amazing design for you. Um, and you could have somebody who's been practicing for 40 years, but if they still have the passion, like they've just left architectural school or design school, they will have 1,000 more laps on the track. That gives them good knowledge, provided they don't get stuck on the one track.
yeah,
It gives them the
yeah,
ability to see the spaces in a different way. And as long as they can keep coming back with fresh eyes like that, like turning up at a new track, yes, you know all the fundamentals. It's about how do you put them together in a fresh way to make that track faster or to make you faster on that track. Cars are the same. I think, boats are definitely the same. You look at what's happened with things like the America's Cup, where they've gone from, J-class boats, massive, big, you know, boats to 12 meters to now hydrofoiling. Um, they're flying. They're flying machines on the water, not
yeah,
sailing machines. Just all
yeah,
that sort of thing. You look at that total innovation, just constantly pushing forward. And with housing, we end up with a bunch of regulations but then we've also got to push forward into, materiality and new things and the way people want to live and their expectations. Uh, Bill, tell me, like, you've been an architect for a while, but at some point you were, a little kid. And how did you even know that architecture existed? What was the journey that you even found out about this? Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Chicago. We were in the city, probably about, I don't know, a half hour bus ride to, I always equate a lot of my summers in Chicago to going down to the Oak Street Beach in Chicago, which is right where near where the Hancock Center is, right? And such. But anyhow, we would take the bus down there and spend the day at the beach. And I think, looking back, from Lake Michigan
Mm,
toward the city skyline and such, and seeing these buildings and seeing what I remember most, and it comes very clear to me, is the shadows. And at first the sun, when we would get there, is shining on those buildings, from the more of the east, and then as the sun rotated around and moved, the shadows moved, and at some point when we were getting covered in shadow from some of these buildings, it's like, okay, I think it's time to leave. So we did the old beach towel wrap up, got changed, and got on the bus and went home. And so that was, I think, in the back of my mind, that was part of it. And then I remember very distinctly going to my grandmother's house and on Sundays and um, get a pad of paper and just sketch things and draw things. And I think, also typical things like a lot of architects that also, started building things with, Lincoln log sets or, Kenners or whatever it was, right? So, but I think that, all in all, it was early, early, early. I was in grade school, probably about fifth grade, where, not probably sixth grade, that I told my mom, hey, I'd love to get a T-square and some scales and whatever
yeah,
it is to
right.
just start drawing stuff. And just kind of self-taught almost. And obviously we didn't have YouTube to rely on. And and I've got a story about cutting drywall, but well, I'll tell you right now. So, when you talk about YouTube, right now you could, how do you score, drywall? How do you put it up right? Well, I was doing a renovation shortly after I graduated college on a farmhouse that my folks had bought. And my first cut at drywall was using a circular saw and coming across, and the smoke, the dust was everywhere. And it's like, okay, this is not how you do it. I don't know how you do it. There's no YouTube to go to, but ended up, finding out how to do it, right? But
Yeah. Score it with a knife
anyhow,
and snap it and then cut the back.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
like
yeah, that yeah. I know now, but at
oh,
the time, you know.
I
So
think I
so anyhow, and I think, but my history of getting into architecture and everything, I think my father had a business, and it was one of those things that I decided this is not what I want to do.
Mhm.
There were a lot of reasons that I tended toward architecture just because I enjoyed it and I knew what I didn't want to do in life. So, um, that's kind of, I tended toward that. But I in high school I entered competitions and won some things or honorable mentions and this and that, and through college. And so I had a good mentoring, especially in my late high school days and then into college. So. But initially you ask me now, and it's like it was always meant to be. I
Yeah.
don't know I don't know what was the spark. I know I remember my mother waking me up at 5, and she was very influential in kind of my development. But she'd wake me up at 5:30 in the morning or whatever it was, and the public access channel had architectural thesis projects that were being
Oh,
talked about on TV, but it was, his like, I'm not awake,
yeah,
Mom, stop
yeah,
it. But I think watching them and having them talk about design
mhm,
and that whole process that intrigued me, and it's those little nuggets of things that you don't even think about until much later that, maybe
yeah.
this did influence me. And I hope that I'm influencing other people along the way. We have our gingerbread house building event that we have every year, and it's for younger kids, and we give them all the supplies to build a modern or whatever they want. They get styrofoam, they get graham crackers, frosting, all this other stuff, and it's amazing to watch the skill or not skill. There's no skill involved in there.
Creativity,
Uh,
ingenuity.
the creativity, yes, of these kids and what they're building and what they're and what it is, and especially if you have them explain what they've designed, and they get into it and how and why and everything else. And so it's so cool. So yeah, we've been doing that for almost 10 years now.
So,
And I figure at some point one of those kids is going to come looking for an internship.
so
Who knows?
do you do that as Studio 21?
Yeah, yeah.
What a
Yeah,
fantastic thing. Yeah.
yeah, we did it once. We said, "Hey, how can we engage more with the community?" And we sent it out mostly to our clients, but we reached out to the local newspapers and various outlets, and we have typically about 100 kids come through on a Saturday
Wow.
in various stages of time slots and build these homes and such. And I know I don't have a picture of it to share, but it's been wonderful. It's
Oh,
and it puts me in the Christmas spirit. It
yeah.
just
Yeah.
so anyhow, so you never know how you influence somebody,
Hmm.
just that one little nugget of say things. And I know we had our kitchen redesigned when I was, younger, and probably about the time I wanted those scales and triangles, because we had our kitchen redone, and the guy that did that and designed it, and it wasn't great. I mean, we were in a small house in the south side of Chicago, but um, just that intrigued me, and maybe just that influenced me a lot.
Mm.
You just don't know. So
Yeah.
anyhow, but my path took me, through college, and I was upset because I wasn't going away to school initially, for college. I went to UIC and Chicago and had to commute, and um, but it was absolutely wonderful. I mean, I missed the campus experience. On the other hand, we had architects that were very famous at the time that were instructors. And I mean, at one point, we were up on the 50 something floor of the um, they were building Water Tower Place. It was a concrete structure, and they're pouring concrete. We're up there, and this is across the street from the John Hancock Building, which
Yeah.
is one of those
Wow.
buildings
Yep.
that, very famous and such. But it just being eye level at some level out there, and so all this stuff was, really. It was a real good education from that perspective, and I really enjoyed it. So,
Well,
um,
what's fascinating with it is you could have just gone, oh, well, my parents drove me out to Oak Park and that was enough, like there was all the Frank Lloyd Wright stuff and, there was all that, but it actually didn't even come from there. It was like, I was waiting for it to be dropped in somewhere in what you were telling me, but yeah. And
No, that
maybe,
happened in college.
uh, yeah.
that was something that architectural school, we went out to Oak Park and stuff, right? But yeah, you're right. It wasn't that kind of
Mm,
heavy influence. I
mm,
think it was the overall city though, and the
mm,
vibrance of the
mm.
city and and all the construction that was happening, and Marina City was being built at the time, and just all that was some sort of influence.
I
Yeah.
clearly need to spend more time in Chicago because I know some of the places you're talking about, but I don't know them all. I've only ever had a couple of trips to Chicago, and I have this bucket list item of just doing music in Chicago. To hell with the architecture. Um, just
Okay.
just doing just doing music and food. As
Yeah,
we'd do architecture, of course, as
that's
well.
that's like an Austin thing, only
Yeah,
different,
it
right?
is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just a different level of music and food that
Yeah.
happens in Chicago. Um, and it's such a deep roots place of that, like it's got deep roots of that, especially the music, and then obviously the food as well. But yeah, it's a fabulous part of the world, like up all around up there. When I first ever went, I caught a bus, believe it or not, from New York. And I know that sounds crazy, but what it was I couldn't make any of the timing work to do it easily to get where I wanted to be by flying. So the flight
Hmm.
times from where I was to where I needed to get to and all the rest just didn't work. And there was an overnight bus. And I wouldn't say that was a great idea either, but it was the one that I went down. And
Okay.
yeah, yeah. But then spent, a bit of time around and had a really great time. And obviously got, stuck out in Oak Park as well. When I say out in Oak
Yeah.
Park, it's not out anymore. But in Oak Park and, did a whole lot of other cool things. Um, got a bus there, but hired a car to drive around it. So
Okay.
yeah, like I had a car for a few days, but it was great. Really, really good. Um,
That's awesome.
so you're an actual Chicago native, uh, and it's your town. It's truly your
It
town.
is. Now, I've lived out in the suburbs for the last 40 some years, so and not quite in the city. I'm not in
Yep.
that downtown
Hmm.
vibe, but I mean, there's some beautiful places out on the lake. And my sister-in-law has this condo that, you go there, you overview Lincoln Park and a view of the city. And it's just like, oh man, I wish I could live here. But
Yeah.
when it was raising kids and getting married, raising kids, all the other stuff that just isn't in the cards, right? So but I really enjoy going down there when I go down there, but it's in
Yeah.
or biking, the lakefront. They've got
Yeah.
a beautiful bike path right on the lakefront, and I would do that in the summers and spend the day down there. So yeah, it was all fun.
One of the things I know you went to Costa Rica just before your operation, but one of the things that take the difference, say, between Chicago and Costa Rica. We'll use that as the thing. In Costa Rica, you've got a climate that changes a few degrees over the year. Maybe swings by 10 or something. But in Chicago, you've got a climate that swings hugely. You could be deep under snow, well, you will be at some point, and
Yeah,
then you'll be in scorching hot summer at
high
another
humid.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and humid, yeah, as well. So with that, as an architect, you know, you I'm thinking of my clients and how some people are more attuned to the warmth or more attuned to the cold, like that they have a more favorite season. And you, of course, get the other two seasons. So where I live is a little more like Costa Rica, not quite. They're full tropical, we're subtropical. And our swing is, oh, I don't know, probably 15, 20 degrees. We're in Celsius, so 15, 20
Okay.
degrees. But again, it's the trees don't really change. They change a little. The weather doesn't really change. It changes a little. Climatically, it's very sort of even. We close the doors on our house for about 2 months of the year. Otherwise, they're open. All the
Mm,
other
yeah.
10 months, they're wide open, you know. We have a
Okay.
fireplace because that's beautiful to have, but you don't really need it. It's like it does get cold enough, but it's beautiful to have a fire. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so I was just thinking, like, so when you're designing in that environment and with all the history you've got in that, if you juxtapose that with, say, being in Costa Rica, where you just went, tell me about the differences in design approach that you would be taking. If I said to you, okay, Bill, there's my plot in Costa Rica, um, versus, and I might be a client of yours from Chicago. How do you approach that?
Well, first of all, most of the areas that we design build in are communities. So you're pretty much restricted as to, the lot and views. And obviously we don't have the mountain view there, the
Hmm.
ocean view. So you kind of work with what's there. Still trying to, like in my own house, and hopefully we'll get a chance to take a look at some images
Yeah,
from
for
that.
sure.
Um, but kind of opening up for a lot of nice natural light because it does get gloomy in November. I mean,
Uh-huh.
there's no question that probably the worst month I'd say, is November or so because it's the fall is over, winter's coming, temperatures are dropping, but it's cloudy for almost the entire month.
Right.
And so having nice open natural light is good. You're not going to have that indoor outdoor space like you would have in
Hmm.
Costa Rica or where you're at. But that's one of those, design features. The other is design a comfortable house so that and it's become more code mandated now, but for years, we were very, very, very conscious about air infiltration and making sure that we didn't have a leaky house that had drafts and everything else. And with the right windows, the right insulation, the right, everything about that. Um, so that's one of the main things. Now, we do design outdoor spaces. People do
Of
want
course.
that.
Yeah.
It's more of a limited, season. For me, it's my fire pit. And for other people, it's a covered porch, with the fireplace. I've got an image of that I could show you. But yeah, so I think that's the big difference. Number one is, maybe, the lack of this distant view.
Hmm.
And the other is, just we have to contend with the fact that it is going to get super hot and humid, and people are going to stay inside in the summer for quite a bit of their time. But then, boy, the spring and fall, can be really awesome.
Those are
And I
your
love the
magic. Yeah.
what's that?
I said
The
spring and
winter to
fall are
me is
magical, but winter is, yeah, like you love it.
it does, but at some point it tires,
Yeah.
But I mean, the first couple snowfalls and just getting out there and even shoveling the snow, believe it or not, is kind of a spiritual thing, I guess,
Yeah.
where you feel good, you dress for it. And I mean, I could never live in Phoenix,
Yeah.
that I couldn't take off enough clothes to, to feel comfortable, right? So layer up, we do our thing. I mean, yeah, a couple of years ago, they were going at minus 26 below zero temperature, Fahrenheit. And I'm like, well, we're 1 degree away from breaking the record. Let's get it, let's break
Let's
that record and be
dig
at
in.
27. Yeah.
There,
So
there's the motor racer in you. Yeah,
yeah,
like
exactly. Well, I am very competitive. I think you know me well enough that I've got a competitive spirit to me. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Look,
let's break that record.
if we can get there, let's go there. Come on, chill this
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
down. It's I always find it fascinating, that whole piece though. Like you said, the first thing, in Chicago, you're not designing for a big view unless it's a lakefront or something like
Right.
that. You're designing for an urban type neighborhood. So, and then also the amount of time that people spend in their home versus outside of it, and then how you make that comfort. Where in Costa Rica, say for instance, the amount of time people spend outside of their home, but they still want to be covered. they still want a roof over them because they don't want to get too fried and all the rest. So that's a bit like where I live here. We would try and do all our outside stuff before 10 in the morning. Maybe
Hmm.
before 9, to tell you the truth, because we don't have daylight saving.
Okay.
We don't do that in Queensland. We do in Australia, but we don't do it in Queensland. So with that, yeah, by 9 o'clock you want to be out of the sun, and then you go back out in the late afternoon when it's,
Yeah.
yeah, when the heat of the sun's not so much the heat's gone necessarily, but the strength of the rays have gone. Um, but we don't get any snow. We do in Australia, obviously. Australia, the landmass of Australia and the United States is about the same. Take
Okay.
Alaska and that stuff off. So when you go
Yeah.
across it, and down south, you'll get your snowy parts, and then in our north, it just gets hotter and hotter, the opposite of you. Just
Sure.
just
Yeah.
flip them over. Yeah. So it's very
But
climatically different from one part to another as well. And one of the things that we find here is that our code, well, there'll be a governing code for the country. And even in Queensland, you'll go from tropical to subtropical to desert because there's only,
mm,
what is there? There's only 5 or 6 states here. I think it's 7 states and territories. So you've got like 50, in that same
yeah.
space.
Right.
Um, and so they all have different governance things. So we have a Queensland governance, but then we have a national construction code as well. And we'll run into the things like you were saying about keeping a house really comfortable. We'll run into the things where we don't necessarily want to be able to, we want it to be able to seal it. Don't get me wrong there, but we don't necessarily want it sealed 90% of the time. 90% of the time
Yeah.
we want it open. We want the wind to blow through it, um, because we're living closer to the climate rather than closing it off. And I see the same, I do a fair bit in Austin, traveling and stuff, and same in Austin. They tend to be a little more extreme in the cold, a little more extreme in the heat, and they live indoors a lot more than they live outdoors when they're
Yeah.
in their homes. Whereas Costa Rica, you probably live, it can almost just be a roof and the odd wall to give you a bit of security and something to batten down the hatches when the storms come.
Yeah. Oh God. But the beauty of the storm, we were right on. Yeah. Could I share that
Yeah,
image?
absolutely. Share your screen, man.
Yeah. So let me see here. Where are we?
Down the bottom, you'll have a green share button.
Yeah. Okay. So
Oh,
this is not the image I wanted though. Let
might be
me
in that
see.
other folder.
Yeah. It's
Oops. There we go.
so
And
this
blow
is the
that up.
view.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
That,
the view I had for 5 days, and I think it was so relaxing. So, I mean, this was before my surgery, and it just and I had been working like a dog on my own house, and my back was killing me, and everything about it was just, tense, and I needed this, and this was great to be able to do this, but to also see how, the another part of the world lives,
mhm.
and in this case, again, in the morning, the evenings is awesome. And you'd get inside for a little bit in the air conditioning or whatever. But that was a great image. But this view also undercover, watching all
Yeah.
these huge thunderstorms, during in the evening hours, that was pretty cool too. So yeah.
We get that as well. Like, I mean, clearly that's not a Chicago view. We get that same thing where we end up with the thunderstorms rolling across the horizon in front of us. And sometimes we're in them, and other times they just roll by. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's I'm fortunate enough to live with a view. Um, but yeah, those the dramatic skies and the dramatic outcomes of that really engage you with nature. And
Hmm.
again, but a lot of that happens for us actually in our summer months. And so in our summer months, that's when we'll get that all the thunderstorms and stuff like that, all the electrical storms. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
cool. It's cool. It's very much a part of how we live here. You get to expect it, massive rainfalls, and then dries up, and the roads are steaming, and yeah,
Yeah.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I find it fascinating that in the design journey, though, designing in places where I'm not native to, and getting to understand those nuances. Uh, And as you were saying before about those homes, and then having your spaces, but the inside of the home is probably not necessarily far more important, far heavier, more heavily used than maybe it would be here where we are.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. There's no question about it. It has to be. And that's part of the design process is creating those interesting spaces then that you are inside and you're enjoying those spaces,
Mm, mm.
with views outside and, it just,
But the shelter
depends
of
on what
inside,
what's
something
that?
of the shelter of inside. So tell me, take me through like what is your design process? How does that work? Because I know you've honed this over many years, and I'm sure there'll be some gems for designers listening, but then also for people who are going to embark on their own home design journey. They're going to hire an architect, they're going to work with it. As say, I know you've honed your systems beautifully to make this work and tested that with a lot of different clients from all around the globe. So give us some insights, man.
Well, so our firm, which I started 44 years ago, in fact, it was almost a little bit. In a way, I miss that I didn't spend more time before getting licensed and getting more mentoring because I kind of learned architecture, I think, through the school of hard knocks kind of
Hmm.
stuff. Because, I mean, yeah, I took my architectural exam in Wisconsin because I could get that 1 year earlier and then I came back to, Illinois and then did a reciprocity. So I mean, I couldn't wait to get my license, and again, my father was in his own business and kind of that was some of my mentality. So I started out working with a lot of builders and things like that. And I wish I had leapfrogged that whole phase into a different clientele, right? But you get through it, and our clientele right now is one that's looking for, a higher end home
Hmm.
and looking for good design. And so how we've structured our firm right now is that we are an architectural firm that also does design build.
Right.
So, we can have the arm of just architectural only, and that's good for some clients because they don't feel comfortable making that commitment up front. We wish they
Hmm.
would because ultimately it's a better way to go,
Hmm.
and we streamline through the process better. But the design build is a fantastic way to go as well because we're designing, we're pricing, we're you know looking at things from the building standpoint too, and not just designing something that can't afford to be built, right? And sometimes architects will go that route where they've got this fantastic design and they're not thinking about how you're going to build this thing, right? So I think we get a little bit of both, and I think that the construction part of it makes us better architects because when there is a mistake or there is a problem, that comes right to our staff, and number
Yeah.
one, let's get a solution, and number two, don't do it again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
you're
but
you're
but
you're not just relying on the builder to make it right. It's it's you.
It's us. I mean,
Yeah.
we call our process the 1 point design build
Yeah.
process because it is that 1 point of responsibility. And if we mess up, we gotta fix it. But the beauty that I have seen through the construction part of it, especially design build, is now we've got a longer length of time that we're totally engaged with the client. And most of those clients they become friends. They become
Hmm. Hmm.
people we engage with 10 years later. I've got
Hmm.
a house that we had built 10 years ago. It's 11 years ago now, and they referred someone that was looking for an architect to build on their lot, and they referred us, and it was a design build. And every Friday afternoon, if I was leaving the job site and my client was sitting on the porch, I'd stop by, say hi, we'd share a bourbon, and and that's the relationships that I love. I've got another client, that was walking by our office, and I hadn't seen him in years, and knocked on. We were just getting ready to close up, and came in, and we started talking, and as an hour went by, and then it's finally, hey, why don't you guys come over for a glass of wine and stuff, and see, where how everything finished off. And that was another one that was just featured in our latest newsletter article. But it's 10 years later, and
Hmm.
here's this relationship with a client that is very strong, and we could pick up on conversation that we haven't talked to them in
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So
But
so
that's
that's
be that's because of the value of the first conversations and the tightness of the process and you understanding them so deeply to be able to do the job for them. That's the
yes, and being with them, and trying to overcome, and it's usually financial. How do we get this in
Hmm.
budget and stuff
Hmm.
like that, right? I mean, that's probably the biggest. I wish I had clients that had unlimited budget, but even Frank Thomas, the ball player, who was a Hall of Fame ball
Yeah.
player, we did it. It was 35,000 square feet back in the 90s.
Wow.
And, so almost unlimited budget, but his financial advisor would kept saying, you got to get this down. You got to get this down. He's not spending that kind of money. So, so I wish I had the clients that were unlimited budget that could do whatever they wanted to do. And we've got a few that are close to that, but it's still a lot of our clients I enjoy working with, because it's a relationship building thing. And I'm 4 or 5 years away from retiring now. So I say. I mean, I'm 70 now, so I
Yeah.
figure, wind things down. But and excuse me, I'm sorry. I thought I had this on airplane mode.
It's so good.
Um anyhow,
That
ah,
that thing around clients and having like an unlimited budget. The thing that I've found with clients, when they've got like huge budgets, is it's a value-driven proposition. It's not as much as a dollar-driven proposition. It's value-driven, and it's like what return on the investment am I getting? That's personal to me. I always look at the marketplace. If the marketplace is up or the marketplace is down, in general, financially, um, the money in town usually stops spending first on anything that isn't something that doesn't have another pressing reason. And if it's their own home, they'll go, it's just in the process, man. It's in the process. It's like market's up, market's down, doesn't matter. This is about us and this plan that we're executing for our lifestyle and all the rest. But value is always the thing that we're trading and against dollars, like, well, how much value does it bring versus to you as a person and your lifestyle versus how much real estate value does it bring? How much, that kind of because it's always the way that I look at it and see, especially with high ticket clients. Um, they're very good at making decisions about what suits them and what's good for them. That's probably why they've done so well.
Yeah.
They don't get
Def-
caught trying to keep up with the next person. They do what matters to them. Mm.
Yeah, and I mean, I like projects with challenges, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
whether it's the site, whether it's the budget, whether it's whatever it is, those seem to be more of a challenge, more interesting. Working with a family that, that if you can solve their needs, solve their problems, and they come back to you later, and we always ask these people, um, after they've been in the house for a while, and it's like, okay, what would you change if you had
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
what would you change? And the answer is usually nothing.
Hmm.
It's been so thought out. It's been so, and yeah, it's probably a little bit of a painful process in the design part for them. But and I mean, I know we've had, as I'm sure you have as well, revision, revision,
Oh yeah,
revision.
yeah, of
We
course.
thought we were here, but now we're here. But ultimately, that final design, when it gets built, is something that really relates to the client. And whether it's a high end or kind of middle end that we're working with, certainly not production building, but that is so satisfying. and
Mm.
and that's what I really get out of architecture right now is the relationship with clients and satisfaction of knowing that we're solving their problems and creating an environment that's that they love, and they love to show people,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. They're proud. They enjoy it and they love to share it. And
yeah.
I I think there's a beautiful thing in that because with I want to go back to a bit on design and build, but people come to you with a dream and you're a stepping stone to the dream. And I often say to I don't do any building, but I often say to clients, what if we do our job right as the design team with you, then we've put down the foundation stone that the builder can stand on to do their part, which is actually hand you the keys at the end of their part. And then you are living that dream. It's no longer a dream, it's a reality. And now you're about to express all those next pieces of that dream. So when you imagined a house, you imagined yourself in, say, the kitchen, or you imagined grandkids, or you imagined, kids playing in the pool, or yourself sitting in the pool, or you imagined whatever these things were. You didn't just envisage a house, you envisage living in it and it being a part of how your community comes around you and your family. Um, and when we get to, the key handover, the here it is. Ideally, that's been a good journey, even though it'll have its ups and downs and its twists and its turns, but it's been a good journey, and it has been one where they've discovered even more of how important their dreams are to them along the way, and what parts are the most important parts of their dream that they want to get to the end of, because there's this budget that's following this, there's this budget that's moving. And when you
Nasty, isn't it? I mean, it's
well, what's
wow.
nasty now is like I think we're like I know certainly in Australia and New Zealand and I think in the US too, we're at a point where building costs and your construction is so much more expensive than the rest of the economy is caught up to yet. The COVID years kind of doubled
Yeah.
it down, and we're still in catch up off a lot of that stuff. There's still, like I was with a builder yesterday, and they were saying, look, we did this little house for a friend of ours who wanted it basically like a production house, but not. Site wasn't suitable for a production house. Did this little house for them 18 months ago. And when we did that, all good. Cost $850,000, I think was the figure to build the house. Those people had some other friends who said, hey, we would like to do the same thing. Would you build it for us? Now, this builder's doing a $4 million project for me. So that's their normal, but they
Mhm.
did this other one through relationships and stuff. They said to me yesterday, they said, the problem we've got is that we're 18 months from when we broke ground on the other one. The people have been in there they moved in just pre-Christmas last year. We're looking at it now and it's $1.2 million. The size is about the same. The site's about the same complexity. Material costs have risen, but it's not in the material cost because, of course, that was my first thing. So where is the money? It's not in the material costs. It's not in the finishes. It's in the labor cost. And they're
Yeah.
just going, the labor cost, it's like it's jumped in the last 18 months that much that, you're like, I don't know, over 50% increase in price kind of thing. And so this part, and we made the analogy, where you go to the supermarket and you see how quickly your dollars are disappearing in just, the supermarket, or with energy bills, or with these things, just how much more they are compared to, say, 3 years ago. And this is the thing. We've got this catch up. People's wages and people's incomes and stuff haven't kind of caught the building cost yet. But building costs escalated so quickly, so fast, that people's other income hasn't necessarily caught it yet. And it's an interesting time.
Especially for younger people, of how do you afford to do this, right? I mean, most of our clientele right now are more of a empty nester
Baby
designing for,
boomer. Yeah.
yeah. And so they've got equity into something that they can push forward, but it's still, I mean, we've lost a couple clients where it's like, it still doesn't make sense for us. And for us, especially when the numbers were quite, rising so quickly, it's almost like it can't be. And
Hmm.
we couldn't cope with it, let
Hmm.
alone the client cope with it, right? And we've gotten used to it, and to a point where now it's like, well, this is what it is. And it just, we're not trying to screw anyone over. It's just, this is what it is to to build now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm fortunate in a way that we are, just completed our house, and I'm glad we did, because I don't know if I would be able to do the project,
Yeah.
starting now, right?
Yeah.
And yet the values will be there. Everyone just has to get to that next level, but it's hard for that to do, for that to happen at times. But yeah, I don't know how some of these younger people can afford to do what they
Yeah.
want. And that's
Well,
why our production builders are building out further and further away from the city centers and everything else. And they're doing, what's affordable. It's not what I want. It's not what
hmm.
you want,
Hmm.
but it's, a roof over their head, and that sort of thing. And for a lot of people, that's either all they can afford to do, or that's all they
Yeah.
care to do. So
And it can be a stepping stone to something else as well. But yes,
eventually,
I look at it and go, if you've grown up in, say, the neighborhood where you live, and you think that you're going to buy just down the road from your parents, or, a couple of blocks away, that's possibly unlikely because of the costs associated. And then also I look at the marketplace and I go, there are so many ways of making money now that didn't exist 30 years ago. Like, just didn't
yeah.
exist. Yeah. Like that,
Yeah.
there's such a different financial structure in the world. But when you do design build, so my process is I want the builder to be on board within the early conceptual drawings, for exactly the reason that you're saying. So I tell my clients we need to choose a builder and we need to lock them into this process. We do a preliminary contract with them, and then I want to use them like they're part of the team. So every time we go, can we do this? Can we do that? The answer is yes, we can. What is the cost implication? Where's the value in it? And then decide how we can do it the best way to get the outcome for them as clients. And in design build, I imagine, your 1 point piece, you're doing that, but you don't have to bring an outside contractor in to do it as such.
Right,
You-
right.
You've got
But
all the
anyway,
facts and
what you're
figures.
talking about has a tremendous value
Mm,
that not all architectural relationships and services are delivered, right?
mm,
So in that case, that's a perfect, a scenario where you've got the builder on board, understands, doesn't get a set of drawings bidding it out saying, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Maybe we should change this. Maybe, just all of that kind of nonsense. And so we've had some wonderful, in, years ago, some tremendous relationships where we were the design architect for a builder.
mm.
And but ultimately the builder was controlling everything, and he would have upset clients at the end of the process. And that's when we said, I think we can do better than that. I think with my personality and personality of other people in the office, it's like we can work with the client and create that relationship from day one and build upon that. And as long as everyone understands, yeah, there's going to be cost involved in
Hmm.
whatever you design, and obviously, but they're control, they have a good part of controlling where that cost ends, right? And
Yeah.
we had someone that pretty much doubled the budget, and it's like, well, here's where we're at, and it's like, well, I can't spend that much money, and so okay, like you don't need this huge appendage of a greenhouse, or do it in another phase or whatever it is. And that brought the cost down to where we needed to be. But, the other beauty is we can get very easily into the whole permitting process earlier as well.
Uh, yeah.
It just, we can cut some time that way as well. Sometimes it doesn't, there's no guarantee.
Well,
The municipalities are what they are, and I think they just keep getting worse and worse as far as um, having a responsibility or a reaction to something that's necessary. And for us, and again, the whole everyone's within the company is we can create react quickly. And kind of relate to racing again, where if we have something that needs to be repaired after the qualifying session before the race, we've got only so much time to get it done. How
yep.
are we going to accomplish it? And if we're going to make the grid, we need to get it done. And I think the same mentality happens within this whole organization of ours, that if something does come up that we need to,
Yeah.
put a different
Yeah.
type of manpower on it, we can do it because it's part of our benefit. And if it has to go to an architect outside, or especially let's say during construction, the architect's got to take a look at it, get up to speed as to what's going on. They've got other things happening, so that's not their highest priority at the moment. And so there might be that time lag that we can cut through the bullshit and just get on with a solution or a change that the owner wants or something. So that's one of the benefits. I'm sure there's some negatives to it all, but I think, and the biggest one I think is people, assuming that they're making a commitment, that once they make that commitment to us, that they don't have control of the cost or feel like we're not going to be responsive to their budget or whatever. They want to
Yeah.
be able to,
Yeah.
right? And so there's those clients that want to bid, and yet and I'm not saying that's wrong by any
Mm,
means.
mm. We
Um,
we suggest with what we do, we suggest that we would introduce you to two builders, unless you've already got a builder. And then if you've got a builder,
right,
then we want we want to know that we can work with the builder before we take the project at that point.
sure.
So before
Yeah.
we get into it, we go, okay, well, let's talk to your builder and just see how their systems run and how we can leverage their knowledge into the design and so on, like, and if it's not a fit, then it's not a fit. We're not the fit for the design
Right.
for that reason, because we're going to lean on the build side of it so that you get the win at the end. And that for people, when they come from we want to get separate bids, we often say, yeah, look, we can hold off until we've got a couple of conceptuals done and then just have these conversations. And not only just have the conversations at that, but look at the systems of how they're going to operate with us. And then you can put a builder on a preliminary contract. That doesn't mean they have to be the builder. It just means that they're going to be there costing us. And one of the things I think that has happened on the upside, and you'd see this, I'm sure, with, your 1 point piece, is transparency. If you're hiding your figures and you've got them written on the back of an envelope, you're no longer in the game. You're not cutting it. The transparency that you can give a client. And I say to the builders that I get, like that I work with, they'll have spreadsheets upon spreadsheets upon spreadsheets of, systemized detailed breakdown. I said, don't give me one that shows labor hours for every human that's on the job, because the wrong type of client will go down a rabbit hole and they think, well, if I could cut that out, I save X amount of that. But what they don't realize is it's one project, and racetrack
Yeah.
again, you're in one race and it's multiple laps, and you might be winning the laps to win the race, or sometimes you'll be behind, sometimes you'll be in front. Yet the trick is how do you get to the end of the race? And how well you do that. And I go, that's the part that we also suggest they get a quantity surveyor. Like we say, get your own quantity surveyor. Once we've got to this point, go and do that. Check it. If that's what you
Yeah.
need. Here's the people we use. Go and find one of your own otherwise, and get the detail from them.
Yeah, and
It's
that transparency is a huge part of it.
mm,
They were very transparent with everything, extremely open book. And we've had clients that weren't ready to commit to us initially, but by the time we got well into the design and almost to the point where we would have a builder get
yep.
involved, they're more apt to just say, "Hey, let's work with you. We know who you are. You're doing a great job. We feel very comfortable. So let's just continue on." So that's another thing that's helpful.
Mm,
And the construction part of it for us is, one of the nice things about it too is that it allows us for a longer stream of revenue for that project,
of course.
because if it's not just this, it's all the way here. And of course, once construction starts, pretty much going to continue on. So,
Yeah.
it eliminates some of those ups and downs with the conventional architectural.
Yeah, that's a
But
really interesting insight. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, during the big recession back in 2010, we had done a luxury home tour, but it was designed around green building at the time. That was a
Hmm.
huge, thing that everyone talked about. And we got a couple design build projects from that. That's when we were really looking at, making a commitment toward design build. And I felt bad almost that some of our builder clients had nothing, and
Yeah.
here we're built, and then we had that revenue stream. So there's something about that too,
Mm,
but
mm.
on the other hand, the negatives for us are always dealing with the contractors directly, because we sign each contractor, plumber, HVAC, everything else. So we have to deal with that, schedule that, listen to all the
Yeah.
complaints, whatever, right? But
Yeah.
so there's some bads on all of that, right? But
Well, the thing I always go with the builders we've got to have each other's back in the relationship. We
yes,
must always. And when it's you see the character of people when things don't go well. You don't see the character of people when everything's peachy. And
Yeah.
we had a project a few years ago where I dropped the house into the ground. I think it was about, say, 800 millimeters, which is how far is that? A couple of feet into the ground, just to keep myself in the height limits. And
Okay.
when we did that, the builder discovered an asbestos dump that we were
Uh,
that we were sitting on top of an asbestos dump, and
uh,
$150,000 later, the asbestos dump had been removed at the cost of the client. Um, and the builder was, well, I suppose somewhat stressed by it. I mean, this is right at the start of a building project, somewhat
hmm
stressed by it, but their ability to handle that, no, a good build company, but their ability to handle that was poor. Um, and the other thing that was very frustrating for the client was is getting their head around how big this dump was and how much it was going to cost. Like, is it the client could afford it, luckily, but then getting a handle on, well, is it a 50,000 and 90,000 or $150,000 exercise, as you're digging to discover, is a really, stressful time, A, for the client, but B, for the builder as well. And if that had been a design build, like if it, not that I should ever build anything, but if it was you, the conversation would have been right. Okay, very different about how we would approach it all. Not, well, we didn't know. I didn't know. They didn't know. The client didn't know. But we'd had soil tests. We'd had all those things done. None of that showed anything up either. So, just yeah, the synergy between myself and the builder really didn't hold. Their values showed more in that, where I'm like, how do we get this through this? And where's all
hmm
our pieces? Their values were like, well, who do we blame? Who do we? And I'm like, we're at the start of a, $4 or $5 million build. And I'm going, yeah, interesting when we get under pressure, huh?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's real dollars. It's real, it's a real
yeah,
problem. But
it is.
ultimately, it is the owner's lot, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
how they
And
work.
it has to be dealt with, but it's got to be sympathetic, and it's got to be, with empathy and with understanding, and all those things have to come together in it.
Sure.
Uh, so yeah, I like the idea of that design build piece when you can offer, that sort of transparency and that ability to really bring people on side and get their total trust to be able to dig through. Share some more project photos, man. I'd love
All
to
right.
show people
Go
some.
ahead.
So if you're not on YouTube and you're listening to us, jump on YouTube and have a look at this beautiful work. As Bill said, what was it, 44 years, did you say?
Yeah, 40 some years.
Yeah,
Yep, definitely.
40 something years. And in that time, he's learned a lot and learned how to create some absolutely beautiful projects. This one, yeah, I'm keen for you to show us
This
this.
is this being shared?
Yeah, that is.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
tell me about this, about what's happening here and what system you're using, because this is like a virtual reality.
Yeah, we're using Revit as our design basis, and we really um, are kind of have been behind some of the virtual reality, some of the 3D rendering stuff,
Hmm.
and we hired someone from he was an intern last year, and now he's full time with us, and he's just taken us to the next level. And I don't recall what this is rendered in, but the program that allows us to navigate and a client to navigate is similar to Metaport or
Yeah.
iGuide that we use, where there's a a spot on the floor, and that's where a 3D camera was taken and circulating around. Well, this is not, I mean, this is a rendering, but it's kind of going all the way
Doing the
around,
same thing. Yeah.
doing, yeah, simulating the same sort of thing so that you can, zoom in on something, you can look up, you
Hmm.
can uh look out, or you can find another spot on the floor where you can move the camera to. And
So how do clients perceive this when you get to show them this? What's their reaction to it?
I think it's for them, it's really a help of understanding um what's going on, and just how is this stairway look, and is it something that now that they see it, and it's not obviously, I mean, the things over on this end
Hmm.
aren't
Yeah.
fully developed, and that sort of thing, but it gives the idea. And but it allows us, especially while we're designing and such, to have those conversations. And
Hmm.
it's like, well, should that be glass? Should that
Hmm.
be, the
Yeah, you see it one way, and then how does that sit with them, and etc. Yeah, like it's really cool. Really, really
right.
cool.
So it gives a good feel of space. It gives a real um and a lot of architects are doing this now, right? And
Yeah.
it's um and I think it's where design is. And I think that, the next step for us, I don't think is going to be virtual reality where they have the glasses and everything. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Hmm.
But this has really helped us uh, help a client navigate what their space is going to be.
Yeah.
And and it's so it, to me, it's great. And it's funny, when I was in Costa Rica, I was with this whole group of architects, and seeing what they've been doing, and it's like, oh man, I'm so jealous that we can't be doing this stuff. And I come back from the trip, and this is what I'm seeing, and it's like, you guys nailed it. It's like,
It's so
yeah,
cool. So
this
cool.
is this is exactly what we want for our clients to be able to understand
Yeah.
what it's going to look like, what this outdoor space maybe look like with there's probably a fireplace there. I can't
Yeah.
quite see, it isn't quite there, but there's a covered space, and there's the
Big open space. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, um, what it does is it allows us to have those conversations, which is great. So this is a current project we're working on. We
Hmm.
aren't, they haven't committed to the construction part with us. Hopefully, they'll watch this video and say, "Geez, why haven't we made that
Yeah.
commitment?" So,
Yeah.
because they watch our stuff. We have a YouTube a video series that I'll talk about, Design, Build, Decoded, and it's followed the construction of my house from the very start to completion, and all the stages in between, and all the design process and everything else. And this client had seen some of those early videos, and I'm sure that helped them in
Yeah.
their decision process of choosing us as the design architect. So, um, and
That's
hopefully
cool.
we'll be building it as well. If we do, we'll have to get you,
Yeah.
back on board and
Yeah.
such. But
That would be really fun. Really, really
yeah,
fun. It,
but there's and I'm kind of navigating through, but I believe this is no, this is the bedroom wing. Um, so I'd have to go the other way, but let's see, let me go
oh,
to.
you've got scenes. Yeah, right. Well, there we go.
Yeah, so that's the location of these things. So this is her design studio.
Yep.
Um, she's an illustrator, and
Oh,
this
nice.
is her space, and she can see what it is, right?
Uh-huh.
And so powerful. But again, bringing in large areas of natural light,
Yeah.
and in this case, they have a larger piece of property that they do have trees and
Yeah.
vista and stuff. And so this is this gives them a great understanding of what to expect in the final
Hmm.
constructed space.
Hmm. My clients are lucky enough that they get pencil drawings to start with. So
Okay.
I develop everything in pencil still to start.
But
Like
and there's a beauty to that, though. I mean,
there
there's
is,
there's
there is.
and I still I cannot do. I used to be so technically oriented and doing AutoCAD stuff and creating
Hmm.
all the routines that would automate things for us and everything. But then when the recession hit and things changed, I no longer, and they took away my tablet that I used
Yeah,
to work with. As soon as they did that, I was done. It's
yeah,
like, but I still get involved with using, and I highly recommend people catching on to our design build decoded series because
yeah.
you
I
do
we'll
see,
post that as a separate link so that they can just go
okay,
straight to it.
yeah, because they do get that understanding of that whole design process.
Yeah.
And one of our clients that was following that, um, somewhere in the middle stages of design, and I whip out a yellow tracing paper and such, and she goes, this is where we do that. And I said, yeah, you got it.
I was just looking on my desk, even here, I've got a roll of white trace. Like
Okay, yeah, well,
there's never
I
one
walk that.
far away. Yeah, there's always
Yeah, yeah,
something. Yeah.
but
I,
it's good stuff.
I,
But I use the red pen and stuff and very
yeah, for
sketchy
sure.
stuff,
Yeah.
but it helps for me at least to let that design evolve. And then I'll give it to our staff and they'll make it
Yeah.
happen, right?
Yeah. That's very much me as well. Like I like to play out the stuff in pencil, and I'll get, reasonably technical with how far I'll go, and then from that, then I hand it over so that it will end up in CAD, like in Revit,
Hmm.
and from there, what will we do from there with it? But I very much my one of my big joys is actually drawing with pencil. And even drafting with pencil, like I really enjoy that line work and stuff. And so for that reason, I hang on to it, it's part of it. So you've
I'm
got,
trying to get you a couple other images here
yeah, cool.
that I can share.
At the moment, I've got like a file box, digital space, cane residence.
Yeah, so we got that now.
Yeah, sure have.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful
So this is
arch.
this is what's that?
I said beautiful arch in there.
Yeah, beautiful arch in the interior of this space, and but the image here that was really resonating with this client was, and usually we're not doing just a dining room, right?
Hmm.
Lately, it's more of an open living, open floor plan type
Hmm.
concept, but they wanted to have this dining room right adjacent to their kitchen, and but what's beautiful about it, even though they're in a suburban environment, there's plenty of trees right around there. So the idea here was that they had all these beautiful windows
Yeah,
and
yeah,
became like a jewel box of a space that they could enjoy.
yeah,
And a current client that we are just about to start construction on, we walk them through this house, especially for the foundation system. But we walked them through this space, and they said, "Oh my God, that's what we want."
we want
This
something
is
like that. Yeah,
that. So,
yeah.
so like I was talking about, we've got our environment is more of a indoor environment than outdoor environment, but it's still something that you feel like you're outside, right? And you feel like you're
You
you're
want the engagement with nature, like this. I'm doing a project in England at the moment, and we've got like a glass box conservatory going on a grade two listed building, and that the whole plan about that is for the dining room. So the kitchen would be behind where there's arches. Um,
Hmm.
and then there's a set like narrower than that that takes you out there. But then beautiful gardens on this property, and they're large gardens and beautiful, really, really beautiful historic gardens. And so you'll be able to dine out there. And because the house was originally built in 1830, somewhere around there. Um, we can't change the interior walls around. They're heritage listed, so they have to stay in the right places. So we can't put anywhere a dining table that would hold 8 people.
Mm.
And we want to go to 12. And so if
Okay.
we do it in a big conservatory like
Usually it's
this,
going to 11,
yeah, right.
right? Right? Spinal Tap,
Oh, of course,
go to
yes.
11.
Go to 11. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow,
Uh,
you want 12 because you want symmetry. I get
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, the client does. So yeah, just that thing again is like this when I saw this picture, I'm like going, yeah, that's what we're looking to achieve. But and we won't have any heritage look to it. Ours will be very
Okay.
modern, because we can't just because of the heritage listing thing, we can't emulate the building we've got. We've got to do it in a very modern way and make it transparent so it doesn't hide the architecture of the original building.
Interesting. I'd
Mm.
love to see it when it's done. I'm sure you'll
I'll
share it.
flick you some pictures. Yeah, even
Okay.
of some of the design development along the way. I'll send you some. And yes, I will share it at some point for sure. Let's see how
So,
we go with it. Yeah, so here we are again and looking back to the
yeah.
kitchen. Yeah,
Again, the same space, but in this case, you can see off to the left the kitchen area
yeah.
and such. And this is
Oh,
an
that's
exterior.
that's the house.
So yeah, so it's in a very traditional neighborhood, but it's got a certain character to it that's um that works. And, it
Yeah.
works and kind of works with the whole community that they're associated with.
I was just about to ask that question. So when you've got these traditional neighborhoods and you are playing streetscape, really is what it's how do we fit with the neighborhood or not? Um, how much influence does the neighborhood have, the neighbors and the homeowners association or whatever have over what you can do on the outside of a building or how you
So in this
perform it?
Yeah, in this case, there's no homeowners association, so they could do whatever they want. And
Okay.
there's no review process that says, hey, we want you to change this window or we want different
Yeah.
material on the facade. So we're pretty free in that type of environment, and that's a lot of area that we do build in.
Hmm.
There are crap. I've got to take my meds in a little bit.
Well,
Um, and, of which I had a handful of 16 of them this morning. So, like, I'm sure I'll be back down to,
yeah,
one or two things. But anyhow, getting back to this, homeowner association, totally different,
yeah,
thing. You have to,
ballpark.
um, to their design guidelines. And when I talk about my house a little bit, I can talk about that as well. But we did something that's somewhat modern, but not quite over the top. If
Uh-huh.
I could, I'd probably want something that's over the top modern, but I probably number one couldn't afford to build it. Number two, where I did build. We bought a lot for $70,000 where in Downers Grove where we were living, it'd be 350 to buy a tear down property to,
Yeah,
be
right.
able to build a house.
Yeah.
So it's like all my budget's gone just to buy the lot. So we had to move away from my office now. I used to have a 2-minute commute. I'm going to have about a 35-minute commute, but I'm only going to be doing it for 4 or 5 more years, so I
Yeah,
can
he
handle that.
says that. Old architects
I
never
say
die,
that,
man.
but you know what? Every time I upgraded something, and it's like, okay, I got to add another month to
Yeah,
continue working to pay for
a-
this stuff. So I'm okay
absolutely.
with that.
Share us some of your place. That'd be awesome.
Okay. Let me just, I mean, something like
That's
this just real
beautiful.
beautiful
Yeah.
too, right? And these are some of those creating those indoor spaces that even though it's got volume, it's got scale, it's got comfort.
Mm.
People say we really feel comfortable with the space, and I think one last image. This
Oh
is one of
yeah,
those
beautiful. Yeah.
outdoor spaces where they've got the
Hmm.
fireplace, they've got a TV, they can go watch the Bears lose. Um, and such. But so this is kind of a characteristic outdoor space that may be occurring in some of our homes. So
Yeah.
anyhow, let me see if I can share and talk to you a little bit about my house.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think
Yeah, so
I think like the one of the things that great architectural offices bring is this knowledge of uh more than just regulation, but of dealing with homeowners associations, whatever it is, and other consultants and things like that. That their ability to deal with people is what makes the difference to the
mhm.
design that comes at the end. And I mean, you're clearly, as people will be able to tell, a real people person. You enjoy the adventure, you enjoy the challenge, and you enjoy going on it with people. Uh, Even though I started out by saying how much you like to travel light, I remember being in Barcelona with you, and you were like, I'm going to go and do this thing. And next thing I see you coming past in a troop of people dancing in the street dances. And I'm like, what the like, yeah, yeah. That wasn't where you said you were going, I don't think, but whatever, it's where you ended up. Um, but
Oh
that
yeah,
that
I
that
was in the
thing of
middle.
taking the adventure,
Yeah, I enjoy life and whole work-life balance and all of that stuff and yeah, with Barcelona some people were like you're nuts. You're out there, they're shooting off fireworks at you and everything
so
else. It's
good.
like yeah, you started talking about shadows and it's like it got to thinking that one image on the south of my house where the shadow and working at
Hmm.
shading the windows and everything, that's come full circle like 60 years from when I would watch those shadows
Yeah,
as a kid, and the shadow effect is still part of it, right?
yeah.
So, and it's
Absolutely,
small.
and I happen to like your nickname from me to you is Shadow Man, because Bill has I don't know how many hundreds of photos of his shadow, but there is a lot. There is a lot. If he's traveling anywhere and his shadow's on the ground, he'll snap a picture of it if he can put his shadow in an interesting position. And
I
wherever
will.
I am, I do the same. I see it and I'll do a shadow. I did one, I was shooting a TV show because I host the show here in Australia, and I was sitting on the edge of a pool waiting while the cameramen were doing something. And I went, oh, I can see my shadow. And I had a Stetson on. I can see my shadow in the bottom of the pool. So I shot just a little video of that because you could see the water movement, but you could see my shadow and the hat shadow in the bottom of the pool.
That's cool. Yeah, I've got a picture of you and I in Barcelona.
Yeah,
That's
our
the beginning
shadows.
of your relationship with my Shadow Man thing.
That's it. That's it.
I'll
That was
send it
so
to you.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool, man. Hey, thanks, Bill, and we will talk very soon, man.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Great for inviting me. I'm really glad you did, and
Yeah, um,
it
it's been on my list for a long time.
well, good. Well, good. And I think at some point we'll follow up with when this
Oh yeah,
house gets finished and
a
and
hundred
and
percent.
yeah. So
Maybe even an in-person one. In Chicago in May, somewhere around there.
well, you get here, we'll do the house, we'll load the trailer, we'll go to the track.
Yeah, just do everything as it's meant to be.
Hey, that's how the world evolves, and just when everything aligns, then it'll
Absolutely,
happen.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, go and have a
All
great
right.
evening, buddy.
I will talk to you sometime soon, I'm sure. Thanks.
You will,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Cheers,
All
bud.
right.
See you, mate.
You got
Bye.
it.
Thank you for tuning into our conversation. I hope it left you both informed and inspired. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen, and please don't hesitate to share your design thoughts with me. It's always a joy to hear from you. If you're like me and crave a deeper dive into design thinking, coupled with a love for travel and adventure, consider one of my architectural adventures. Join me and some of my wonderful design friends and embark on a journey of a lifetime. Apply for an unforgettable design experience at adrianramsey.com. With our clients spanning the globe, I firmly believe behind every great project are great people. If you're a great person and seeking to turn your dream into a reality, I'd be honored to design your home with you. Why not join the ranks of our exceptional clients and let's make your heart sing? Reach out to me at studio@ardesignhouse.com. That's studio@ardesignhouse.com, and let's get a conversation going and make your heart sing.